I'm making another album. And today I'm going to do something different. This is a special episode because this morning I did my first ever live stream natively within the new Make Music Your Life community, which I'm calling a Tribelive. So, and it was really good. It was a live stream where I did a kind of little mini workshop called Album Insights, where I went through some of the insights I've had with through the making of this album, and also really the overarching insight. And I thought that it would be ideal as a recording for this podcast. So it's about an hour and a half long. There's a Q&A at the end. I've chunked it into sections, so which is better. You can easily get to the different sections. There are a couple of 5-minute free writing exercises. So if obviously you're not going to be able to do those if you're driving or washing up, but you might want to do them. If not, just have a think about what I'm asking you, what your answers would be to those questions, and then there's kind of interaction with the community via chat, as it would be with a live stream. And then I share how I've been thinking about the various different things that I ask you in the workshop. So I think it'll be useful for you. It'll be valuable for you to listen to, because it kind of gives you a different perspective on making an album and what you need to make an album and why you might want to make one or not make one. And if you're already a member of the Make Music Your Life community, because you've essentially done a program in the past, then you know how to join, you know how to get to the tribe. Go there, because what I will also do is I will upload the video. I will make sure that the video recording's there. So if you want to watch it on video rather than listen to it in a podcast, you can do that too if you're a member of the community. If you're not, don't worry. You can listen to the podcast. I mean, obviously, there's a few things where I'm talking about things on the screen, but really, it's not. They're not that important. So, and I think, I mean, if it was me, I'd probably, with an hour-long workshop, I'd probably be more likely to do it and appreciate doing it via audio than having to watch a video. But maybe that's just me. So anyway, with all that said, I'm going to stop rambling on, and here is the first ever Tribelive Album Insights. Take it away, past Mike.
Hello, and welcome to the first ever Tribelive. Hopefully this works without glitches and too many problems. We've never done one of these on Mighty, the new community, before. So, and one of the problems is that obviously there's a chat and you're going to be interacting with me during the chat, and I find that incredibly distracting. So to help me with that, we have the glue, the Make Music Your Life glue, otherwise known as Tim. Hello, Tim.
What's up?
He's, as you can see, he's my conscience, just like speaking. But are you a devil or an angel, Tim? I think you're an angel.
Definitely devil.
No, don't do yourself
My little horn?
down. So yeah,
That's
so
cute.
Tim's going to be reading the chat. So say hello in the chat. All right, here we go. Yeah, we have some people. Fantastic. Hello, Alvaro, Mikhail, Peter, Georgi, Tony, or Georgie, Stephen, Christy, Marius, Mark. Hey, Mark. I've seen you for a while. Scott, Tom, Mark H. Hi, Mark. Alex. Hello. David, Rob, Ronald, Patrick, Alvaro, and Valentine. Great to see you all here. So let's do what we usually do and kick all this off with a positive focus. So post in the chat your top musical win this week. And I won't post it in the chat because there wouldn't be any point because you're actually hearing me speak. But I will say what my top musical win has been this week, which is, so many. Just so many to count. Which one do I choose? Actually, it's not been a great musical week, to be honest. I think my top musical win has been the singing lesson with Laura, once again, the wonderful Make Music Life coach, Laura, who's also now my singing teacher, where she somewhat set my mind at rest about various different things and various different hang-ups I have about various different things as well by showing me a few things. And I've now learned how not to sound like a choir boy. So, more like a non-choir boy. So apparently it's all about the twang, which is something they don't teach you in choirs. They don't like twang in choirs, but they do on records. So not choir records, though. So that's my top musical win this week. So Tim, why don't you read out some of the wonderful Make Music Your Lifer wins?
All right, let's do it. Alvaro, finishing a mix/master for a future release that I dreaded finishing for the longest time.
Brilliant. Well done, Alvaro. That fear of finishing thing is real. I'm feeling it right now, in fact. So I'm finishing this album. Oh my God.
So
what was I thinking? Why am I singing on this album? Yeah. So.
Got Georgie. He did 2 splurges and 2 discoveries. Well done. Got Tony Tyson. I got the masters back from my upcoming EP. The tracks sound great.
Brilliant. Hold on, Tony. Still chugging away. Wouldn't think anything less. Tony's a long time mastermind from when I was doing the mastermind. So well done, Tony.
Got Mark H. Started a long-awaited collab with a good friend and made lots of music.
Brilliant. I was about to say that's something I miss. And I think I do in some ways, and in other ways I don't. A lot of my collaborations were me sitting in front of the computer doing all the work and someone else sitting at the back checking their phone and occasionally saying things. Although there weren't phones.
Have you tried this?
There weren't phones. There weren't phones when I first did my collaborations. So not all, but by the way, for instance, with Andy from Groove on Mod, it was a bit more the other way around, to be honest. But yeah, so which might have explained why that particular collaboration didn't continue. But anyway, so yeah, but in the later ones, it was definitely like that, and there weren't phones. So actually, it was a little bit more annoying because you either got moaning, or you got people. Yeah, there's one bit I won't say who it is, but one particular guy who's just biggest moaner in the world. It was just like, and others saying annoying things, and what they would do is like, can you change this? We can change that. We can change the other. And what I'd often do is I'd just turn it up, not change anything, just turn it up and go, is that better? And they'd go, oh yeah, that's great. Because I was like, I don't think that's a good idea, but I gave up arguing. Anyway, I was young and stupid back then, so I don't do things like that anymore.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
We got Patrick. Patrick Del Santo. Top win. Made adjustments to splurge template that had me working smarter, better, and faster.
Brilliant. Nice one, Patrick.
Steve Connolly. I did a music session. That's a week. That's a win after the week I've had, which is not a good week.
It does happen. So well done for getting back in there.
Yep. Mikhail, developing my UE is the biggest win.
Fabulous. Yes, your unique instrument, which is what Patrick's calling the splurge template, is a game changer. It just makes everything. I mean, it's not often you can say it makes it easier, quicker, and better. It's almost like if I said that on YouTube, everyone would be like, a snake oil scan. Like, I don't know, what can I say? It literally does.
Ronald Claus. Finish my because the night. Oh, finish my because the night bootleg release ready.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was like, huh?
That doesn't make sense. Yeah. Brilliant. Well
Yes.
done, Ronald.
Nice one, Ronald. Benjamin Wirtz. Re-simplified my template to get around some technical glitches.
Fabulous.
Ooh. Dreaded technical glitches. Marco. Singing session in a choir for the first time. Speaking of choirs.
Yes. Yeah. I used to sing in a lot of choirs. All right. Brilliant. So let's move forward. And I'll just push Tim to one side for a second. There you go. I headed you out of the way. So we're going to do a free write. Okay. It's a little bit less of a free write. It's probably more of a kind of thinky free write. But you like the way I would probably go about this is just by letting whatever comes out come out. All right. And I am going to get to my insights, but I actually want to get you doing some stuff first, just to think through a few things, because I think something's become incredibly clear to me through the making of my 5th album. That, I mean, it was clear before, but not in such a kind of bleeding obvious, as my gran, may she rest in peace, used to say, an incredibly obvious way. And I want to demonstrate it to you so it becomes as obvious to you as it has been to me. So we're going to do a couple of exercises first, and then I'll kind of deliver sort of how I've been doing the thing that you're about to find out. All right. So we're going to start with a free write, and I'm just going to give you 5 minutes just to write down, not in the chat, but just yourself, to write down. You can type or write with pen and paper, just what you need to have or find to make a high quality album. So say you haven't made a high quality album yet, so you haven't got an album, but in order to do that, what do you need? Okay. I'm going to get you to free write starting now. Think about what you need to have or find to make a high quality album. What resources do you need? Like in your schedule, what do you need? What about in terms of skills? Bear in mind, you might have them or you might not have them yet. That's fine. Just if you were to make a really high quality album, what would you need in terms of skills, in terms of time? Maybe in terms of equipment. Now think about the music as well, about your music. So I've already said skills, but what about your sound? What about your process? Now think about what about people, other people. Audience, fans. Other musicians? Some people might not need all of these, of course. You should think about all of the things you think that you need to have or to find to make a high quality album. Just give you one more minute just to think of any others. Something I didn't say actually was knowledge, information. Is there anything you need to find or have? All right, brilliant. So can you start posting in the chat some of your answers? So just maybe start by posting the number one thing that you think you need.
All right. Got some answers coming in. We got Al saying, create a plan.
Okay.
Spencer, solid mix engineer.
I'm going to put mix engineer down here.
Jolly, deadline.
Sorry?
A deadline.
Oops.
Tony says, I need time.
By the way, in the mind section, the reason mind is, and kind of when I say mind, it's like stuff like time management, time, things in your life. Music is stuff to do with the actual music. And the reason I put mix engineer could go in music or money. The reason I put it in money is because it costs money. Yes.
Paul says, selection of trusted sounds and instruments. Mikhail says, a theme. Not sure how to phrase this one, but Mark says, ideas, inspiration, and passion.
I'm going to put ideas in. Oops.
Oh, he also added a method to execute on all of that. Steve Connolly says process.
Method process. Any others? Yeah. You can start putting other ones now that wasn't your top one.
This is a good one. A proper reason to do it.
You're going to get one of those today. Yes. In fact, you're going to get many of them.
Adam says consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick says better vocal mixing skills.
I'm going to put that in music. In fact, I'm going to put skills. This is a general thing.
Skills of any kind.
Trusted people to get feedback on.
Feedback people.
Would you say cleared calendar is the same as time?
Let's call it a schedule. It kind of is, but it's also slow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A budget. Or deciding on a budget.
Just out of interest, does anyone, and I'm not saying you're wrong about this, but just, does anyone think you need an audience in order to make an album?
Val says marketing. Tony says not really. You don't need an audience. But it would be nice.
I'm going to, because I've heard this, I get this a lot. I'm just going to put this. I mean, I guess it goes into reason. But, yeah.
Yeah, but I think some people actually say like, oh, what's the point of making an album if I have no audience?
Exactly.
Tony says insight, the ability to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Not just, I need to get this done.
Fantastic.
And that's
Fantastic.
so far. There's a few other people typing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Guest spots, collaborators. Promotional plan.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Promotional plan. So marketing. And that's it.
Great. All right. Let's forge ahead. Okay. So we've got a load of sort of mind things we need. We need time. We need plan, deadline, schedule, the reason to do it, passion, the inspiration. We need to be consistent. We need a clear kind of schedule. Plan. I'm going to do this at this time, and we need to be the ability to kind of zoom out and see the big picture in various different ways. We need the instruments, sounds, the right setup. We need a theme. We need ideas. We need a method, and we need skills. And for some people, these will obviously be different. But we might need a mix engineer or mastering engineer, people to give feedback, budget, a marketing promo plan. Even though no one here said audience, people often do say that, so I'll put that in there anyway. And we might need collaborators. All right. So now, the second free write. And this time, I'm going to ask you a different question. Of course, I'm not going to ask you the same question because that would be very boring and kind of pointless. Although, to be honest, asking the same question multiple times isn't that pointless. But I'm not going to do that today. Don't worry. So the question is, why? Why make an album at all? Like, if you don't want to make an album, just pretend you do. Why would you if you did? Okay? So free write, all of the reasons why you would want to make an album if you did. Why would you want to make an album? How could making an album fit with your goals? How could it help you achieve some of those goals? Think about what you want to do in or with music. How might an album help you do that? Think about the process of writing an album. What might come from the process of going through writing an album? If you resolved to make an album and you had to do it, then how might that shift your approach to making music in your daily life? And in making the album, what would you be doing? And how might that change what you were able to do? I mean, imagine you've made an album. What would that then allow you to do? What would it mean you have to do? I know quite a few people here already have made an album, so you can think about how it changed from before making one to making one. Various things changed. How might it change the way you view yourself? I'll just give you a few more seconds to come up with any other reasons why you would want to make an album, if you did want to make an album. Okay, brilliant. So let's do the same thing again and find out what the reasons that you might make an album, if you did. I'm not saying you want to. You don't have to. What would making an album bring you? Post in the chat.
Tony says a way to explore a broader variety of sounds.
I'm going to say explore sounds.
He also says expand my unique sound, experiment with different influences and subgenres.
Mhm. Unique style.
Spencer. Share my experiences with other people through music. Adam, to push me into trying out new ideas that I otherwise might not with a narrower scope. Jolly says, give a clear focus for music making, a goal. Christy, reflect/express me at a certain point in my life.
Brilliant. I'm going to say diary, because what I mean there is it's like a diary entry. In doing the album podcast, when I spoke about Smorgasbord, I've only done one story time about my previous albums. It's like that experience of writing the album. It literally, when I think about it, the artwork and everything, it just takes me back to a particular point in my life, like nothing else. It's quite incredible. For good and bad. It's not good. Having to stay awake for like three days with virtually no sleep, sleeping on the studio floor wasn't my idea of fun, I have to say. Anyway.
Living the life.
Yes.
Mikhail says, my gig audiences would enjoy and pay for another experience.
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I didn't hear the end bit. Something about audience?
Yeah, my gig audiences could enjoy and pay for another experience. Scott says, tell a story. And he also says more content for marketing. Mark says, I could try new things, genres, anything, and have a frame to let it flow in and take shape. Val says, the feeling of having accomplished something with my music. Benjamin's is the same thing of self-expression. Let something flow through me into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Steve says, a way to consolidate where I am in my musical journey and get a glimpse of where it might lead.
I'm just going to put consolidation. I know what you mean, Steve. I'm just consolidation of journey. It's like a container, isn't it? Like a milestone, I guess.
Jolly says, finished album is a good platform for marketing purposes.
Yep. That.
Patrick, an album would give me a driving narrative to build promotional campaigns, create content, make new connections.
Yep.
Would you say broaden my audience is the same as marketing? Audience
for sure.
Grow audience, yeah. Let's see. I love this one. Benjamin says, put out some remedies for the most toxic implications of civilization.
Brilliant. Right. So I'm going to put that into contribute, make a difference, that kind of thing.
Christy says, challenge myself.
Yes. Big time.
Nice one, Al. He says, contribute positively to humanity.
Yeah.
Steve says, therapy allows you to work through emotions.
For sure. That's a big one for me. My poor wife. I'm writing all these songs. That's getting all of this stuff out. Luckily, she constantly takes the mickey out of me, so I don't play her any of them. She always goes like this. You sing like this. I don't know. So she's going to be laughing on the other side of her face when she hears me twang my ass off, like
twang,
like Beyonce. Anyway, keep going.
That's all that we have.
All right. So I don't know whether you've noticed, but a lot of these are very similar to a lot of these. What is going on here? Here is what I think most, I'm not saying you, I'm just going to push you to one side for a minute, Tim, if you don't mind. Okay. So what most musicians say, and I'm not saying that you guys do because you make music your lifers, and obviously we're a better breed of musician. So, but this is what most musicians say, is that I need time, I need focus, and I need motivation. I need a unique style, I need skills, I need the right setup. I mean, you might not be saying some of these, but I bet you're saying some of them. But some you're not going to be saying, some you are going to be saying. I need a fan base, I need awareness, and I need income before I can make a great album. But the thing that has become, I mean, you've heard me say this kind of thing before, but in the making of this album, it's become absolutely clear to me that this is, yes, that is true, but in reality, how you get them is by making one. Making an album gives you the time. And I'll tell you how in a second. It gives you the focus and it gives you the motivation. Yeah. Making an album, in the process of making an album, you can develop a unique style. You do. You kind of have to, because you know that you have to in order for it to mean anything. You build the skills. It gives you the right setup because you have to find it in order to make it. And on releasing it, it is something that I'm not saying it like just making it will therefore mean you will have a fan base. Therefore, it will bring you the awareness. Therefore, you will have income. Of course, that's not true. But as Patrick and others already stated, it gives you things which will allow you to do that. I'm not building my skills to make an album, right? I'm making an album to build my skills. Okay. So here were my goals that I identified at the end of last year. Okay. Over here. So one of the things that was really doing my head in was that I wasn't because I did the live stream thing. So I was live streaming every day, and that was great for a while. I moved here and it was going absolutely great. But over time, because there wasn't a kind of end goal, it was just an ongoing thing, it started to feel very throwaway. I mean, I got a lot out of it even then, but it did start to feel a bit like, well, it started to feel a bit pointless. Okay. I still was improving and there was lots of benefits to it, but it was losing its sheen. Okay. So then I said, I'm going to stop for a while, because I'm going to go back to kind of daily splurges and that kind of thing. And I kept on finding that I was putting my music off over and over and over again. And I could start to feel this story, which I knew was BS, that I don't have the time to make music because I'm so crazy busy with the schedule, right? I felt I didn't have the focus on it. And when I did, it would start and then it would stop because my music wasn't the priority. And when I did make music, it was like I had to push myself to find the motivation. You know, it was like this. What making this album has done, right, is the challenging deadline in itself has given me time to make music in my schedule, right? I've got the focus sort of day to day by breaking up that album into chunks. So, you know, in the first month, I'm going to complete this. At the end of this week, I'm going to complete that. Yeah, it's like an actual milestones. That has given me the focus. The addition of doing the podcast and also doing it in very publicly here, you know, in Make Music Your Life and with the Make an Album with Mike program has created a public, and when I say public, kind of the difference between public and group is what I mean is, to me, the public means those faceless them. So the podcast feels like that. I don't know who's listening, just them. They're just like numbers. So that's the public thing. The group is the faces, like the faces of the people who I'm actually talking to. So in other words, social pressure. That makes music the priority. It's like I have to do it. Yeah. What did I do yesterday, Tim? I said, well, yeah, what did I do? We were meant to be starting at 8:30 with our work. We do these things called slams where we work together on the business. So what did I do like 5 minutes before?
Oh, you were like, hey, can I make my music session for another 60 minutes?
I was like, yeah, sure, look, whatever. Come on, I just really need to, because I'm going to get massively behind, right? So that would have happened without this milestone deadline and actually the actual deadline. Yeah. Another thing is creating significant downside. So for me, obviously doing this in public, and you know, in a sense, I'm lucky in this area. Doing this in public, sort of in front of people, and being a coach and leading from the front, saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to be able to do this. I mean, I've never said it's going to be no problem. I've always said it's going to be challenging, but it's meant that significant downside. I mean, it will have a significant downside. I mean, I don't think the business will fail if I don't complete the album on time. And you know, it is still, to be honest, I'm still like that because I'm in the final 3 weeks now. I definitely will complete something. I don't know how good it will be, but I will definitely complete something. But that significant downside means that, do you know what it means? It's very inconvenient. It's like incredibly inconvenient. But I do not have to coerce myself at all. I'm like, I've got to do it. It's like, it's not very pleasant in a sense, but it's much more pleasant, I think, than that kind of discomfort is so much preferable. The external, I have to do this, is way more I would take it any day over the internal, oh my God, I'm not doing that thing that I really want to do. I'm not making my music. I'm not making it a priority. I'm not moving forward with one of my biggest goals. That feeling is just, it's awful. Whereas, I've got to do it. Like being pulled to it. And then when you are pulled to it, going, oh, wow, yeah, you know, and having fun and doing all that stuff, that is what I want. I'll take that any day over this kind of thing that I was in before. Okay. So here you can see that these things that we think we need are created by the challenging deadline itself. Okay. And the great thing about an album is it's a ready-made container to look like, and it's a big thing. Yeah, it's like a bit like a novel, not a short story. It's like a novel. It's a big thing. It's challenging, and it has a sort of cultural weight to it as well. It's like, I'm making an album. I'm making my, you know, and you get those people that say, how's the music going? Oh yeah, I'm making my album. 4 years later, how's the music going? I'm making my album. You're like, if you're going to finish this album, So it's got this thing about it that we have ready made as a resource for us to use to kind of push us forward, to pull us without us having to push ourselves. Okay. In terms of my singing, so this was a big thing for me. I had, if you have not listened to the album podcast, I talk about it there. I've had this thing for years for various different reasons where I wanted to sing, and I never have. And it was turned into this massive dragon that I'd never slain. Yeah, it was just turning into this. Oh God, I started to think I would never do it, and I knew that if I didn't do it, and I'm lucky enough to have a deathbed rather than just sort of falling down over, and sort of die peacefully rather than in some horrible way, then if I was in that situation, I would regret it. I knew that. I knew it was something that I would regret if I never did it. And it was becoming this terrible thing. Now, a lot of people would say I need to be able to sing before I can make the album. But for me, I recognized, because I'm lucky enough to coach people, that in making the album, I would have to, and if I decided to do it, I mean, to be honest, when I decided to make the album, I hadn't decided whether I was going to sing. I actually made the decision kind of in public. And how I started singing was simply through splurging. I ended up doing 164 splurges, most of which are absolutely appalling. Right, singing, just really not very good at all. Okay, so I actually started singing, yeah, and then there was the writing songs bit. I've never written songs before. I've helped people with their lyrics a fair amount. That's something I've done a fair amount, but I've never actually done it myself. But what I actually started to do was improvising songs. I was like, well, how would Mike Monday do it? I was like, well, Mike Monday would ask a ridiculous question, like, how do I make it so that I can write a song in the time it takes to actually play it? How would I do that? And that's what I did. Thing is, I never would have come up with that question and that approach without deciding to make an album, because I knew that that was how Mike Monday does it. That's how I would be able to do it. So I started improvising. And funnily enough, most of the songs that have made it onto the album are almost 100% improvised. I'm not saying that they're Shakespeare. They're so not Shakespeare. They're not like beautiful lyrical. But they are very me. Yeah. And they're these improvised. I mean, they don't really have, some of them have a bit more of a verse and a chorus structure, but not really. But I never would have done that. I never would have thought it was okay without the album. Obviously, I need to improve my singing. Well, that's happened because of making the album. Because I've been making the album, and I've nearly been singing daily. Yeah. I never would have got Laura to be my singing coach, my singing teacher, had I not been making an album. I wouldn't have asked her to do it. Yeah. Because I would have had no reason to. Right? I also, one of my goals was to develop the music machine. I mean, this was one of the reasons that I was getting upset with myself. One of them, not the only one, for not making music, was that I felt that I wasn't continuing to develop the machine quickly enough. Right? And in using the machine to complete this project, the machine has been constantly upgraded and altered and improved through daily machine use. I mean, now, for those who haven't done the Magic Music Machine program at all, how many different, I mean, let's not even talk about the games, but how many different activations, which is a succession of games, do we now have? It's like 40 or something.
Yeah, I think because each week we did that, and then there's now hundreds of different games that like music games in Discover, in Draft, in Done, in Release, in Splurge. I mean, there were already loads of splurges. There's even more now. Yeah, so that's just one of the ways in which the machine's been developed, because I've been making the album and making these games for making an album with my people and other people too. Yeah. And the other thing that was a real thing for me over my music career, which I've never, ever done before, was to find my unique style. And while it's still challenging and I'm still in the process of doing it, I've definitely, by synthesizing these hundreds of ideas and options in the making this album, that has started to happen like it's never happened before. Now, yes, I did make albums previous to this and never quite managed it. But this time, I'm actually doing it in a much more
structured manner in a way. Okay. Another of my goals was making music and coaching the same thing. So in other words, making me like being my music and my coaching, that one sort of serving the other, which is why I launched the Make an Album with Mike program, which obviously never would have happened without me making the album. Another goal I had was to build awareness, build the audience for my music and coaching. You might have noticed that Make Music Your Life has been behind a email wall for years and years and years. And yes, I did start doing the podcast before the Pod Walk, which is a different podcast before this. But that made me realize that actually I could start sharing my experiences making the album. And that's building the audience around there. Growing the audience for my music. 10 songs to release every 3 months, because as a result of this experience, I'm going to make another album straight away. I'm just like, right, I'm beginning again, because it's like I've realized that the music machine is I mean, obviously I think it's fantastic. I'm biased. It's fantastic. It's great. It allows you to do all kinds of things. But the missing piece for me was the deadline of a specific project. So I'm not going to say, I don't want to stand here and say, make a pronouncement. For the rest of my life, I'm going to make an album every 3 months. I think Sally would have a few things to say about that. But so I'm not going to stand here like an idiot and say that. But I'm definitely going to make another one immediately afterwards. And my idea at the moment is to keep doing that until I need to have a break, because it has brought me this focus, motivation, progress, and improvement. So just to come back to it, this is true in a sense, but wrong in another. You won't get these unless you do something. I mean, of course, making an album isn't the only way of doing it, but you won't get these unless you do something like this. Yeah, because the process of doing it, like process, gives you the result. So these are all results of the process. It might not feel like it, but it is. Again, the clearest example is I'm not building my skills to make an album. I'm making an album to build my skills. Here endeth the lesson. So with that said, are there any questions that I can answer about this? Post in the chat.
Nobody's typed any questions yet, but feel free to post it in your chat. Several people typing now.
Fantastic.
TJ. I'm late. What did I miss? You missed a lot, TJ.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning. All right, so positive focus. So everyone, we're going to stay for another hour so that TJ, we can go through the whole thing for TJ. Okay. So, welcome, TJ.
TJ's like, yeah.
Hopefully the recording will work.
Hopefully.
Only put it in neck, TJ.
Yeah, all love. Spencer says, is there a wrong way to do a splurge to get ideas rolling?
Yes. Focus on quality. That's the wrong way to do a splurge. That's the only wrong way. I think you could go really, really, really slowly and not focus on quality. That would still be splurging. The purpose of the going fast thing is to serve the not focusing on quality. But that's not an absolute requirement. You could, if you were really good at splurging and not focusing on quality, you could go really slowly. The definition of splurging is that you are not focusing on quality. There's no other way to do it. So that's the only 100% deal breaker. Anything else pretty much goes. I mean, the not listening, just generally export all of your audios and listen to those instead of, but that's not really, instead of listening to the DAW or the actual instruments playing it. But that is true of all of your sessions, not just splurging. So I wouldn't say that that's just about splurging. And the not listening for a certain amount of time, that's more about getting a perspective on what you have splurged rather than the splurging itself. And also when people start splurging, it also gives you a very clear, oh, I'm wrong about my opinion. Therefore, I'm so often wrong about my opinion. Therefore, I need to stop paying so much attention to it when I'm making music. So that's the purpose of that. Again, that serves the zero focus on quality. It actually gives you the motivation and the realization of why not to focus on quality. So really the only thing that splurging is not focusing on quality. That's all it is. Okay. And remember, we do focus on quality in the machine, like more than almost any. I've not seen the kind of, if you're interested in focusing on quality, come into a release level of the music machine over the next few weeks, because I'm working with people to finish albums and things like that. And there's a focus on quality, the like of which you've probably never seen before. Okay. But we still splurge when we're actually making the music. How is this possible? I don't know. You'll have to find out by coming and seeing.
Al Vega says, what's the best way to know how to set deadlines to create an album?
Okay. So what you need, I'll tell you what, I'll just tell you what the deadlines are that I've used for the album and that I've helped with the Make an Album with Mike people. Okay. So 4 months or 3 months, depending on whether you do the preparation. So there's 4 sections, one of four. So okay, back up. Okay. You have the final deadline, right? Anything beyond a week and it starts to become, it's a little bit meaningless. Yeah. 4 months. I have a deadline in 4 months. What is going to happen there is I'm going to be going, filing my nails, scratching my ass, not doing very much. That kind of stuff. And then like 2 weeks before, oh no, I ain't got enough time. Yeah. So that's what happens if you have a 4 month away deadline. So what you need is milestones. Shorter kind of, by this point, I'm going to do that. By that, the other, I'm going to do this. By the other, I'm going to do this. Okay. And by the way, if this recording has worked and stuff, I may well do more Tribelives about the album, actually diving into the mindset, money and music and getting more kind of granular about what to do. So, but anyway, if you'd like to do that, say, yes, I'd like you to do that. So that I know that it's worth doing. So we have the album deadline. Let's say we've got 4 months. First month, preparation, where you kind of you figure out why you're doing it, what you're doing, you kind of gather things, and you start the kind of process of making ideas. Okay. Now that's an optional month, but it kind of eases you into it, and it gives you time to kind of, let's say, faff around with, I could use these instruments, that kind of stuff. I think it is very beneficial, and it means you kind of can gradually start to get into the process of doing music every day. Okay. So preparation, it's fairly relaxed. Okay. So that's the first month. In the second month, idea generation, this is where it really starts. And what I did and what the Make an Album Night people did in the first month, we did a 100 splurge challenge. Okay. Now I ended up doing 164 splurges because I started in preparation, which is more is better, right? Because the more ideas you have, it just gives you so many more options. The more practice you do. People who were doing Make an Album Mike who did 100 splurges, their eyes popped out of their head because they were like, I'm getting so much better it's almost like without seeming effort in the moment. Of course, making 100 splurges is effort, but you don't feel like you're making effort in the moment because you're just going boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it just becomes like a process. I'm just doing it. Oh, yeah, and it starts to feel like you're spinning your wheels. But by the end of it, you're like, hang on a minute. This is, yeah, woo, I'm having, well, it's like you just start to, I don't know, it becomes a process and you kind of automatically get better. So in that first month, essentially, as many splurges as possible. So so let's say that preparation is month 0. Idea generation is month 1. And month 2 is what I call execution. And so you've got all of these splurges and you choose which ones that you want to work on. And in that month 2, the execution one, you're essentially discovering and drafting them out. Okay. And more than you need. Okay. So you're not doing it with the 100 splurges, obviously, but you could be doing it with 20 or 30 of the best ones. Yep. So in execution, by the end of execution, you're going to have a bunch of stuff done, which isn't release ready. Yeah. And then in the final month, which is what I call presentation, that's where we are and the Make an Album people are right now. That's where you prepare things for release. You choose which ones you want to prepare for release. You've got a few backups as well, and you prepare for them for release with your hair on fire, running around going, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. Am I going to be able to do it? But I can tell you one thing. Sharing the experiences with the rest of the Make an Album with Mike team has made it possible. Like it's so funny at the moment. Everyone comes onto the calls with this slightly like, including me, look on their face like, and then by the end of it, they're like, I can do this. That's how it goes, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, for sure. I always feel like, fuck.
Why did I say I was going to do this? There's just something about, working together that really does make a difference. So that's how I do milestone it out, and it's worked really well.
We got Marius. He says, would you recommend making a new Trello board / machine when you embark on a project like this?
That's a really good question, Marius. All right. You don't have to, because you can just move things into the sketchbook. However, if you've got a music machine that you've had for years, you'll probably find that Trello's slowing down. It's like, so what I do is I have two previous music, because I've got so many splurges. So I've got, and they're what I call archive music machines, but I think of them as extensions of my sketchbook. Okay, so everything's in the sketchbook column in those music machines, right? And so for this, I mean, obviously I made my, this album, my Trello board public. So in case you didn't know that, which I probably could have told you. Actually, I can't share the screen easily here. I'm sorry, I thought I was using Zoom. So yeah, so basically, Tim, could you get the link and post it in the chat just in case?
Yeah.
And also, could you post a link to the album podcast as well? Spotify link, you might as well do that. It's the easiest. So yeah, I made a Trello board public, and obviously I didn't want, it was like, why have 5,000 different splurges? So I actually made a new Trello board for this project. I don't think it's required. If Trello didn't slow down, if you have thousands and thousands of splurges, then I don't think it would be required. But there is a psychological element to doing it, so you can definitely do that. But also, I think just for the kind of reasons that when you've got too many attachments in there, it starts to kind of creak a little. I think that's absolutely fine. The way I think about it is that those previous music machine instances, if you like, are still part of my music machine. It's just their sketchbooks. They're just extensions of my sketchbook. And in fact, in my album, I think it was on about splurge 60 or so, something like that. Although I might be misremembering, I decided to actually go to my old sketchbooks, my other music machines, and start bringing in the MP3, because they were all instrumentals, start bringing in the MP3s into a DAW and just singing over the top of them. So they are still resources that you use. I wouldn't think of it as throwing away that stuff. It's just, yeah. So yes, you can. You don't have to, but you can.
Let's see. Tony I'm working on an album that I didn't consciously start as a project, but I've collected a bunch of songs over time that I want to release as a whole. What's the main difference with the process that you're describing? Is it starting every track in the album in mind, with the album in mind?
Well, that's a really good question as well, Tony. Thank you. So, with the albums the album I'm making and that other people are making an album with Mike, it isn't required that every piece that you put on the album you make in the album making process. You can bring old music in. So, for instance, yesterday, and this was a contender for my biggest musical win. In fact, in a conversation with Daniel, who's one of the Make an Album with Mike people on the last call that we had together, he just said something about, I've got some instrumental tracks because it's just singing, and that brought into my mind. This is one of the benefits as well of doing it with other people, who are also doing it. Is that I was, oh yeah, that's a problem with my album that I kind of knew but kind of didn't. It kind of made me think, oh. And instantly into my mind popped this track that I had worked on. When was it? I can't remember. A couple of years ago. It was just an instrumental thing called The End of the Beginning. And for various different reasons, it really was like, that is what I need in the middle of the album. So I bought that yesterday. I brought it into this album, and I'm going to change it and do various things to it. And also, 1, 2, 3. I think 3 of the other tracks on the album are instrumental tracks from before that were kind of standouts from when I was doing instrumental stuff, and I've sung on them. So it's not that you have to only use the music that you're making in the specific project. But remember, when you take the approach that you're making the album to make progress, not making progress to make the album, it's like getting stuff from the past is, if that's going to serve your progress and if that's going to make a better album, because one of the things I've found is that I've noticed, now I know what to do with these past pieces of music because of the progress I've made in making the album. And now this piece of music makes sense because it actually fits in the whole thing. So if it makes sense to use other old music, then you absolutely can. But if that's stopping you from making progress, remember what I'm presenting here is the idea that the real purpose of making an album is for you to make music. Right? You don't make music to make an album. You make an album to make music. So it depends, this kind of frame, this approach, if going back to past stuff and kind of assembling, it stops you making music, then that probably isn't what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's not what I'm talking about here. I mean, I've got an idea that I would like to go back to some of my old Mike Monday hits, although I might call this album Greatest Misses, because I don't think I ever had what I would call a hit. But I didn't actually sing on a bunch of them. Because it's funny, over the years, I had quite a few people sending me various different vocals on various different things. So that might be quite interesting. So I don't know. That would probably serve my singing progress. So yeah, it depends. I think, and again, I'm not saying that going back to old tracks is the wrong thing to do. But if that actually serves your progress, I think it's a great thing to do.
Awesome. Steve Connolly says, what would you say the greatest personal myth you busted? Like, did you disprove a thing you thought was completely true?
Wow, that's a really good question. That writing lyrics is hard. Yeah, that was the myth I busted. It's not hard. That's all I'm going to say.
Not when you splurge. Not when you splurge.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, it doesn't have to be hard. We just make it hard. It's very, very similar to music making. I mean, I think maybe I'm slightly misspeaking. I think writing lyrics is hard. Coming up with lyrics isn't. So that's the difference. I think, I mean, just the whole thing around singing as well. So there's a whole load of kind of limiting belief, my own personal limiting beliefs about stuff. I'm too old too. It was a big one. I'm too old to start singing. Is this another midlife crisis? Although I'm not sure I'm officially designated as midlife. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to live till I'm 250. So I'm just only at the end of my first fifth. I mean, it's funny me saying this because you would have thought I wouldn't, but I think one of the, you know me, one of the approaches that I take is that I'm my first client, if you like. So I'm a terrible perfectionist. I'm just, it's something that I have to work at overcoming. So certainly one of the things that I've busted, like literally, so it's no longer even an issue. And you've heard me saying this a lot to you before. So you'll be surprised that I don't know whether you will be or not, but you might be surprised that I've struggled with it. But that's the simplicity is the route to your most authentic expression, right? I mean, some of the tracks on the album, I mean, it's still, even now when I think about it, there's still a bit of a, of just like three instruments, one of them being the voice. And you might say, yeah, but I make this kind of music, or yeah, but I make that kind of music. Even on complex music, at its core is very simple. And by starting with what is simple and building from there, and then seeing if it needs extra complexity, that's how you make the kind of music that you want to make. Because it's all subsidiary to the main thing, right? To the main idea. All of that stuff. Yeah, if it serves the main idea. I mean, I think the other thing is, I mean, I'm not sure that this kind of busted a myth, but there's lots of things that were either confirmed or strengthened. So that purpose, that have the music having a purpose, not a function, but I mean, function is important too, but a purpose, like you're actually saying something, it helps you make music. That's another thing that has been confirmed or strengthened. I think also another one, I mean, there's lots of them coming out, there's all just flowing out my mouth. But there's another one is I don't have time to make music in my schedule. There's no way I can say that anymore. That was always a lie. I knew it conceptually before. Now I have proof and I can't argue with it.
Great. Christy, life, in reality, life happens. How do you juggle those moments when life throws curveballs?
Yes. So let me just contrast two different situations. So like life has happened for me. I mean, I'm sure that there are many, many worse situations, but life has happened for me a lot this year. So there's been, I mean, it's been one of the most stressful few months of my life. It's been mainly down to building work and I won't go into it, but essentially building work costing a lot more than the builder said. And so having to stop a build and all of that kind of stuff. It's just a nightmarish situation. And living in like quarter of a house with 4 boys and 2 cats. Just very, very stressful. And of course there are worse situations. I've got a house and we're doing building work. That's I'm very, very grateful for that. But it's been very stressful and there's been very, very little time. Now, if I'd have been through this same situation without having to finish the album on deadline, how much music would I have made? None. I'm sure of it. I mean, I might have made a bit here and there, but I probably would have made very little. So it's like creating the conditions where you have to do something means it becomes a priority. Because I don't think any of us can say, I mean, I think there probably are some people in the world who can say this, but certainly I don't think I can say that I am using all of the time that I have and there is no more time. There is nothing that I can do. Because what it's about is it's about saying, okay, I'm going to focus on this and not that. So when life throws you a curveball, and of course there are going to be some curveballs which are going to stop you. Like if there's a death in the family or some kind of health crisis or something like that. It's like that there are certain, I don't want to, say your house burns down or something like that, or your computer stops working. There are certain things that just are going to stop you. In which case, it is actually okay, because you created the deadline. It is actually okay to say, I'm not going to finish this album on this deadline. I'm going to finish it at this point. I'm going to pick this up later, which the Music Machine helps you do, of course. Okay. So I mean, of course, by creating significant downside, it feels like you have to do it. And that's the point. But if something happens, which means you literally can't do it, well, there's no downside to that. It's just don't do it. Put it aside for a little while and do it again. At another point, you haven't lost anything. You haven't lost face. I mean, if I was to say, yeah, my house burnt down to you guys, which meant I couldn't finish my album, I'm sure no one's going to go, oh, my Monday is full of it.
Oh, come on, my Monday.
Exactly. Oh, God, it's just full of big talk, man. You know what I mean? They're going to be
Just
like,
a little bit of hash,
Exactly. So other things where life's happening. So for instance, the building work, it's been very stressful, but it's not been something that I've been unable to kind of get through. So in other words, if it's a life happening thing that would stop anything anyway, well, then that's fine. If it's a life happening thing that you can get through, well, then the album, something like an album is going to help you, find the time or kind of jiggle things around, because it becomes the priority.
Cool. I think that's all the questions. Oh, TJ, how did you end up with a cohesive album from all of this? Did you start from a theme idea, or did it come out of all the splurges?
Yeah, synthesis of all of the splurges and trying lots of different things, and then I'm still finishing it. So I'm in the last 3 weeks. So there's a couple of things that I need to do. I know how to make it sound more cohesive. So one of the problems that I had a conversation with ChatGPT-4 about, where ChatGPT-4 coached me through this problem, was about the cohesive thing about the album. So I am still kind of working on that. But essentially, the problem with cohesion that I have right now comes from those pieces that I took from my old Music Machine and sang over the top of. That's the main problem with cohesion. So really, starting with a your unique instrument thing, yeah, let's call it splurge template if you want the non-music your life way of saying it, right? So starting with a template and using that for loads of the splurges, and also trying different things when you get a bit bored of it, because after 164 it gets a bit boring, and trying different things. And it's almost like you can't help but start to pattern recognize the various different things, and it becomes clear to you what it is you want to do, like what it is that is you, what the thing is, and it's usually not what you were expecting. It's like, it's very, not necessarily very different, but it's different from what you thought. Yeah, it's like it emerges. It's an emergent property. A unique style is an emergent property more than it is a consciously thought out property. You do bring a conscious thought into it in order for it to emerge. That's one of the processes within it, but it really it appears and it becomes very obvious.
TJ says 100% agrees.
Brilliant. So just to finish this up, post in the chat, what was the number one insight you gained from this Tribelive? Number one insight you gained, and then we'll finish up.
Mark, I need to make an album. Adam Crawford says milestones.
Yeah.
Tom Philpotts, deadlines. Spencer,
The thing is about deadlines,
album.
right? The thing is about deadlines is that they are inconvenient. They are uncomfortable. They are unpleasant. But they're more pleasant because of what you do as a result. But what they're unpleasant, and that means that you do the thing. The unpleasantness pulls you towards doing the thing that you want to do. So if you struggle to make music in your schedule, in your crazy life, then you have to create the conditions where there is that unpleasantness. Otherwise, you're going to experience the unpleasantness of of constantly having to coerce yourself into doing it. The unpleasantness of not doing it and feeling bad. And I know which one I'd choose. I have chosen, in fact.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. TJ, turn up on time? Question mark.
Brilliant.
It's all good, TJ. Spencer, album to make the goals happen.
Yeah. Just generally flip the script when it comes to that. It's like the process of doing the thing gives you the things that you think you need to do the thing.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest insight is realizing that it's the opposite way around.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about like, I need to make these songs in order for me to create my album.
Yeah.
Benjamin, carrot beat stick anytime. For sure. Mikhail, that I have what I need to make an album. Just do it.
Yeah, well, and even the stuff that you don't have, you'll get it through making it. Put it this way, you have enough to start. Yeah.
Steve Connolly, I've been lacking a significant downside. Christy, realizing the doing addresses the reason/action.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm still feeling like I need to know why human minds don't. I mean, including myself, by the way. So I'm not saying that everyone else, because this is something that I've come to realize. Okay. But why it is that naturally human minds don't see it this way around. I don't understand. I know that there's a reason which will bring even more clarity to it. Why it is that we put these things before the doing of the thing. Because if I say a sentence in the wrong order, it won't make any sense, right? So the order in which when is very important. The order in which you do things, important it is.
Thank you, Yoda. That's it.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Well, it's been wonderful. We did have a brief glitch, but immediately, as soon as I reopened it, it brought me back to the right place. So I don't think that was too much of a problem. Hopefully not, anyway. So I think we will be doing more of these Tribelives in the future, and I'll probably do some more around the specifics. Sort of in the music area and in the mindset area and in the money area as well. So it's been great to hang out. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much, Tim, for being the glue and helping me with the chat. It's been wonderful. Have a great weekend and onwards and upwards.